All right. So recording for today, we're going through wrist and forearm, maybe a little bit of shoulder stuff and hand things today. So it's just gonna be something that basically you guys get to follow along with me. I'll chat about why we're doing things or certain tips or tricks as we go along, but we'll just go through it all together. So today's really simple, probably stuff you've done before, holding some stretches, moving through some stretches, a little bit of self pin and stretch where you can kind of pin the tissue and release it and play around with it. It's gonna be great for anything that you guys might have been experiencing for a lot of grip strain, a lot of single arm use stuff by being at home, sitting at computers, maybe gardening. Our inspiration came from one of our members that has been doing a lot of gardening and reaching up and clipping shears and doing all that type of home project stuff. So that's our inspiration for today. So hopefully you find something about this helpful. If not, at least it's making you take a break from sitting at your desk. Okay, so to start with, we've done this before in class, but you guys are going to put your hands on the ground and rock through different ranges of motion. You can go side to side, forward and backward, right? And we're just gonna have hands spread, palms and everything flat. You're not going so far as to bring up the heel of your hand. Keep that down and level, and you're just kind of working through the wrists. I don't know about you guys, but being someone that works in a manual therapy profession, I actually feel this stretching in my hand itself. Some people are gonna feel it more up into the elbow. Everybody's different. There's no right or wrong as long as there's no sharp pain. If there's pain when you're compressing down like this, if you even maybe have a history of like nerve entrapment or anything that you know of, you can always move it up to a wall. So I'll show you that one. The rest of you keep moving around as you're going through it. You can also move it up to a wall so that you're not as far down or as much heavy weight, but you can move it up to a wall and still move around, rocking forward and backward, walking the hand down, walking it up, going out to one side or the other. So you can play around with that, whether you're on the ground or on a wall, right? It takes a little bit of the weight load off. Okay, go ahead and switch your hands to a different angle for our purposes and for the easier visual. I'm gonna be doing everything from the ground. But again, oops, you guys can do it on the wall if you need to. Go ahead and switch your hand direction. So going towards the side with thumbs out. Again, some people might find that certain angles do or don't work for them. I like to kind of start throwing in some diagonals too. We're just gonna play with it, spending some time. The other thing that has spurred me to throw in stuff with the wrist, and in the last couple weeks I did some feet, is when I've been putting you guys in certain positions that you've had to hold yourself up in for mobility. Go ahead and turn your hands in now. People have actually found when we're doing lower body mobility, but they're holding themselves up with their hands, that their wrists are getting sore or they can't hold themselves in a certain position. And that, to me, we don't want to cut off our nose to spite our face and aggravate our wrists when we're trying to stretch our lower body. So that just tells me that we need to spend a little more time playing around with the stuff we kind of take for granted. Next, I'm gonna go facing fingers back. Same thing. Now on this one, you might need to just stay really small if that's a big stretch in your forearms. Otherwise, if you can rock back a little bit, rock to the side, play around with it. And for those of you that are on the recording right now with me, I just have me up since I'm doing smaller movements and needed to be able to see it. So if you do have questions or need me to stop something, I'm not able to kind of monitor you like I've done in the past. So just go ahead and chime in if you need it. And we can pause or go over something. Next thing we're gonna do, you're gonna wanna really sit back and not be super weighted forward. You're gonna put it so that your palms are facing up and your hands are down. Some of you might need to start kind of in this neutral position. If you really have a tough time, like carpal tunnel type stuff or a lot of impingement in the front of the wrists here, you can always go to the side to start. And maybe this is all you're doing is here and you're just trying to straighten your arms. Maybe once you get the arms straight, all you really can do is rock your weight over the wrist and back. Maybe that's what your challenge is today, is just trying to be straight and adding some weight. Okay, if you can, move through all those directions. If you can, put it in a different angle and do the same thing, right? But don't strain the wrist trying to do something that matches anyone else. Just pay attention to what feels like it's getting some good work done for you. Okay, and then last, go ahead and go forward. And this one won't be too much. You'll probably get a little bend in the elbows, and that's fine, but that's side to side. And again, as little weight as you need to put on it. For this one, maybe you need to go up to a wall for this one and walk up or down because you're too tight through here. That's totally fine. Okay, next thing you're gonna do, you're gonna splay fingers against themselves. Okay, so I want them big fingered like this, and you're gonna push fingers against each other. All these seem like small little trivial things, but when's the last time you actually sat and mobilized your fingers? And how many things in our daily life do we use our fingers for, right? The other thing that's great about this one is it's probably gonna heat your shoulders a little bit. It's making you hold your arms up, hold your shoulders up. So just going back and forth, and then you're gonna rotate your wrists back and forth, trying to keep your palms together. And again, heating up the shoulders, taking some time to hold our shoulders up in a position they haven't been all day, and just using them. Nice. Okay, next one. Palms face each other. And for this one, we're just gonna go up and out, right? So up a little bit, elbows kind of pulling. If you do this, kind of defeats the purpose. You're just going to where you get a little bit of that natural tension. And then we're making it active, going through it, trying to stretch through while we're in that position. Again, shoulders probably heating up a little bit, especially if you're people that have been sitting at a desk up until you got on this call. You might be feeling it a little bit. For some of you, extra challenge, out and then up and then back. So for me, that's a challenge because notice, you'll see this arm right now automatically rotates. I have a really hard time keeping it straight. This one looks all janky and wonky, right? Has to do with just shoulder mobility, right? But just playing around with that. You can even, if you want to just try it here, and go up and feel the difference and then rotate it and play around with that. Whatever you guys are feeling. If you want to just stay here, that's fine. If you just want to go right in through here, that's fine. Okay, so there's that one. Let's go ahead and do some circles real quick, because you're probably feeling it, because most people don't have a job like me where I use my hands laboriously. They do more of this style of use, right? But you're probably feeling this already in fatigue because you don't use your hands in those ranges of motion as often throughout your day, and we're making you do that. So the next thing we're gonna do is just a basic stretch. We got a lot of heat going through here. We got this area through fingers and through our wrist where it crosses, a little bit more warm and stretched and loose. We're gonna start attacking some of the stuff in the forearm. This stuff's much bigger than the muscles and things down here. So these, if we try to stretch these from here, right, what gets pulled and strained is this area. It doesn't even really touch these because they're so tight and so much bigger muscles compared to the tendons and little tiny muscles that are down here. So we moved them, fascially slided and glided all of these things to get them moving. So we stand a chance of affecting these guys up here. So what we're gonna do, you guys have done this before, so we're just gonna do this stretch. You should hopefully feel most of it now up here and not too much strain down here. It's the same thing as like if you think about when you go to stretch your hamstrings and like bend over and straighten your knees, you feel it behind your knee instead of in the hamstring, right? So you have to bend your knee a little bit. So we're trying to basically make it so that instead of feeling so much here, you can't stretch this, we get that option. So we're just kind of holding through here. You can even play around with bending the elbow back and forth. You'll add a little change in the way that it stretches or pulls. It's a little bit of a slide and glide. Go ahead and switch sides. I always kind of hold for a little bit. And then I do a bit of a slide and glide, and I feel nothing on this side, right? But I'm right-handed. This is my left hand. It might look opposite to you guys in the video, but it would make sense that I probably overuse this area with writing and texting and everything else more, and I'm probably a little tighter here, versus this side, I don't really feel much of a pull. Everyone's gonna be different, and that's okay. Next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna grab the thumb. So crisscross there, grab the thumb and pull over. So this one you should be getting a little bit through the shoulder, maybe just a little bit of stretch through the thumb, right? You don't wanna like hyperextend it or do anything like that, but just a little bit of a pull through it, opening it up. You can play around with it, and then just getting a little bit of a rotation. So we'll hang out here for a second. If you can only go to here and pull in the thumb there, that's fine. If you can get that rotation like it's a front rack position, awesome. We're just playing around with all the different ways that our body can move and how they can move in coordination with one another. Okay, go ahead and switch sides. So other elbow to other elbow pit and rotate. So you'll notice I can't go as far on this side. I'm a little stiffer through my left shoulder. It's fine, just is what it is. It's not painful, but I don't feel this thumb as much as I felt the stretch through the other thumb. Everybody's different. As long as you're not in pain doing these, it's more of a good stretch or a heat or a tightness, I'm okay with that. Cool, okay. Next one we're gonna do is gonna have to do with pinning the forearm while you go through ranges of motion. So these are some of my favorites, especially like if you ever notice like when you're typing all day or your forearms get sore, you kind of squeeze them, or you like feel one knot that you keep going back to and poking. It's like poking a bruise. You're like, it hurts, I'm gonna keep poking it. Well, instead, let's productively poke on it, and you're gonna pin that area. You'll see this kind of lump right here that you'll have, you'll notice it, kind of a lump of your forearm muscle, right? And it crosses over at your elbow, this guy right here. So you're gonna take that, you could probably see it if I show you like that, you'll see it rise up. So you're gonna kind of pin over that area and you'll feel it. It might be sore or tender as is. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your thumb flat. It's kind of like you're squeezing and not pinning and gripping, right? It's more like you're a big giant pinch or squeeze instead of grip. Okay, so making sure we're like this so you can stay on that muscle. I'm not squeezing yet. I'm starting with my hand up, okay, and then I'm kind of clamping down. Shouldn't hurt a ton, but you might feel some tenderness, and then I'm gonna take my hand down. Then I'm gonna let up on that tension. I'm gonna pin it again, take my hand down. I can even kind of pull back on that pressure away from it. I'm gonna hold and then relax. I'm gonna pin that area again with my hand up and then take it down again. And you don't have to pin very hard. A lot of times what helps us get that increased tension is moving the arm. So that's why I have you guys start with that muscle in a shortened position. So up like this, so that you can really feel it. Pinning it and then lengthening it. So you're using your own body and your own muscle movement to help stretch through and slide and glide. So let's go ahead and do some quick passes of those up and down the full wrist. Some of you might like taking a little longer and do a few fewer passes. Good. And then let's go ahead and rest a little bit. This arm probably feels a little tired in this hand because, again, you might not work with soft tissue work like I do regularly, but that's okay. You're getting some strength built up in your hands in a different way than working on a keyboard. So now you're gonna take your other hand, same thing. You can see kind of the shadow from this side, the kind of lump area of that muscle. If I turn it sideways and I do this, you see it rise up when I flex it. So right in along here. Again, you're gonna kind of pin along that muscle and it's like this, not like this, right? So it's not like a death grip. It's more of a squish. You're gonna kind of get that spot. Hand starts up so that it's a shortened muscle. Pin it, so squish together, and then take that hand down. Good time too, if you want, like I try to make myself do. I sit on my knees instead of sitting on a chair when I'm talking to you guys because I sit on chairs a lot of other times. So I'll sit in different positions to make my hips and legs be in a different position and get comfortable with being uncomfortable for a bit. Go ahead and release, take that hand back up, repin in another spot, and take the hand down. Good. Release, hand up again, pin, take it down. If you want to add a little something, which I didn't mention on the other side, but you can totally do that. When you take it down, if you want to straighten the elbow. On my other side, I was pretty sore, so I didn't really want to add any more intensity, but this side is a little less tender. So to make it a little bit more intense, I then straighten the elbow at the end because this muscle comes up and it attaches above the elbow. It crosses that joint, so you can get kind of a double stretch on it. If you feel like you can handle or want to get more intensity, then straighten the arm with it. Let's do a couple more quick passes. Move yourself up and down the arm. Try out the straightening component if you want. Play around with it. Good. Shake it out. Okay. Let's go ahead real quick because some of you aren't used to that and do the hand one again with the fingers. Just real quick because you use those to pin and stretch it. And then what you're gonna do now is we're gonna take a bit of a break and do a bit of a self-massage on your thumb. So we text a lot, we do stuff that can really sometimes aggravate people down in these muscles here. So we're gonna just show you an easy way to self-massage your own thumb. And then we'll go back to doing another pin and stretch for the other side of the arm to finish everything out, and then we'll do the nerve floss at the end. Okay, so we're gonna take our hand. We have this big spot, this big cushy muscle on our thumb that gets used a lot. So if we take the webbing of this other side and that same big muscle on the other hand and kind of pin around it. So I don't know if you can kind of see how I'm grabbing like this. So if I take these two pieces, bring them together, and then go like that, I can then use, I'm squeezing down and massaging. I can even use this thumb if I want, right? But I know some of you might not use your thumbs as often as I do, or it might be sore. But you can also just use the butt of your hand on this side to massage out. So you can see it looks like on this side, the butt of my hand and my thumb on this side. That might feel really nice. Go ahead and switch sides. So again, butt of my hand here, gripping through, squeezing and sliding. Again, I can use my thumb if I want. Notice though that I'm pinning and sliding. I'm not digging in, right? I'm doing that or sliding through the other part. And you can go all the way down to like this portion here. Might feel really nice. Some of you might feel nothing, right? But there'll be times when you're doing a really hard grip workout that all of a sudden you're like, oh, that thing that I saw in mobility might feel nice right now. Right? So this might be something that you find is really helpful. Okay, so now that we've loosened up the hands a little bit again, we're going to do another pin and stretch to finish it out for the front side of the arm, okay, to give you a different idea of things that you can do. So we shortened for a little bit of our wrist extensors and some of that brachioradialis muscle that crosses for the elbow. So that's what we kind of hit a combo of on the last one. This time we're going to hold palm up, and we start with it shortened by it being up like this. Okay, we reach across with the other hand, same thing. Some of you might find different spots that are really sore. And again, I'm still doing that pinch. I'm not digging down or clamping, right? So maybe I find that spot, I start shortened, and then I straighten it out. I might even use the floor, again, to kind of add that. Or I might go up against a wall or my desk and use it to help straighten this back. Okay, so I might be like this. Let's see if I can show you guys a wall one. Dum, dum, dum. We'll go right here. So you guys can see that. So I could pin here, start like this, bring it down, and then pin in like that. So again, pinning, hands shortened, bring it down, and then use the wall to pin in like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep playing with that one. You don't have to use the wall for now, for the purposes of the video, because it is easier for you guys to probably see it. And then the other thing you can do from this position is you can roll in and out. So we have what's called a pronator muscle that is in charge of rotating our hand down. That can get really sore because we do this a lot. So while in that same position, while you can do up and down and then repin and down, you can also pin that muscle and just kind of rotate your hand like you're flipping a pancake and play around with different spots all along that. I'm not going to try to tell you to find that muscle specifically. You'll find something that's tender and it'll feel good to do this. And that's what we're going for. Let's go ahead and switch sides. Okay, so I only spent probably a little less time with you guys, but maybe at most like 2 minutes on each individual spot that we're working. We don't want to like bruise something or make it really uncomfortable or more aggravated. So just go with whatever your, I guess your tolerance is. Switch sides here. Go into this one, right? So we start with the hand up. We grip this kind of area down here, and then I take the hand down. And this might be where, again, I kind of go up against a wall to stretch it. Could go against the floor to stretch it a little bit. Hand up, pin it again. And again, I kind of pin it down and then I drag it towards the elbow, but you can do whatever you can tolerate. And then opening up the hand and stretching it down. I'm using the floor on this one because I don't get very far on this wrist. I don't have as much mobility on it. It's a little bit tighter. Maybe I don't use it as much for those positions. So I'm using the floor to help me out. Just be mindful that you're not overdoing any of this. If this right here is enough stretch and pain, if you're like, that might be as far as you need to go to start getting some of that moving. And then let's go ahead and switch to that pronating one where you pin it again, this kind of grip. It's not claw. And then rotate your hand. You move up towards the elbow and down from it. Okay, let's go ahead and shake it out if you want. Do a couple pass-throughs on those thumbs if you're feeling them, because these big gripper muscles, you might be feeling it a little bit. Okay, so play around with those. Okay, last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do one that's just a global kind of tensioner nerve floss type hybrid. I'm saying these words, it might mean nothing to you, but if you wanted to type them in or you're using this for reference and get an idea of what some things are out there that are like this that you could do, go ahead and type in things like nerve flossing for the upper extremity or for your shoulders, or if you know the nerve names and want to say median nerve, ulnar nerve, or radial nerve, you can, but you guys don't need to know those right now to do what I'm doing with you, but we're going to do a global one that just kind of hits a little bit of all of it and involves just kind of tensioning and helping with loosening up, again, the kind of fascial sleeve that goes all the way up our arm, the stuff that just kind of needs to slide and glide and holds underneath our skin and above our muscles to get everything in the compartment moving really well. So this is one that I like that's easy, it's hard to mess up, you're not going to hopefully piss off a nerve doing it, so it's an easy one to do. But if you want more info on flossing, nerve gliding, all this other stuff, type those words in to the Google and see what you find. You can always ask me for more one-on-one stuff, but just in general, those are things you can look up for reference. So the last thing I'm going to show you is going to be, let's see where we can put it. It's going to be a nerve floss. It's like finding the right amount of things to hold stuff up here. It's an adventure. Let's see. This is what I get for cleaning the room, as I don't have as many things to hold stuff. Okay, let's see what you guys can see if I do this. Okay, so I have a wall. So if you, in that time, hopefully y'all went to find a wall. I should have said that better. Okay, I'm gonna take my arm, right, just like this. Here's my palm out towards the wall. I'm trying to really keep my shoulder down and back, right? So I'm not up here or shrugged high. I'm just at like a neutral comfort level. I'm going to straighten my arm all the way out to kind of where it naturally wants to reside. If I feel like there's too much tension in the elbow or the forearm there, I can either move it down, which might give you a little more, or move it up, which will give you a little bit less. Okay, and then I make sure that I'm really open and square, right? So I'm not closed and turned in. I'm open, shoulders down, palms wide, fingers are spread, and I'm flat against the wall. So to start with, you can do just a basic back and forth. You'll feel it might be a little bit tight, and then it releases, and then it's a little tight, and then it releases. Okay, again, if you feel nothing, if this is like, this is just really easy, slide it down a little bit. It'll add a little bit more stretch on that position, shoulders down and back. Really think about that down and back component, and you might feel it a significantly more amount. And then you can, again, offload it and reload it. And then the other thing I like to do besides just the offload and then retension it is to roll the shoulder forward, roll the shoulder back, roll the shoulder forward, roll the shoulder back. So I'm keeping my arms straight, and it's almost like I'm just like turning my elbow pit. I always joke and call it my elbow pit, like my armpit, but I open that towards you, and then I take it up towards the ceiling. So now my elbow's on the bottom, and then elbow back, elbow pit forward, elbow pit to the sky, elbow facing the ground, right? So kind of just rotating in and out. It's another way to kind of slide and glide through and work on all the tension in the arm. And I might go back to that. Now I feel actually less tension doing this. So I'm gonna move it down a little bit more, shoulder down and back, and then I'm gonna tension it again. So a couple more times playing with either rotating the shoulders and the armpit or the elbow pit, going in and out, right? Any of those work. Good. Go ahead and relax. Shake that arm out. It might feel a little fatigued because you held it up, but it should feel warm and actually looser, right? All through should feel like you have less stuff when you move your arms up through range of motion, less stuff pulling, because the skin itself, the muscles, everything, nerves have all slided and glided and moved, and you made it kind of work on a smaller level. I'm going to go and face the other way, so we get to see what the other side looks like. Okay, so I go square to the wall, palms facing to the wall, hands spread, leaning into the wall. Okay, I make sure to open up, drop my shoulder down and back, and I feel that tension on this side is enough for me. So I'm gonna offload it, re-stretch it, offload it, re-stretch it. Keep going through that, guys. Good, I did that about 5 times, and now I'm gonna do the rotational one. So I'm gonna rotate forward, rotate back. So elbow pit towards the ground, towards the sky, towards the ground, towards the sky. I try to keep my arm fairly straight for that. My hand doesn't spin on the wall at all. It stays tensioned against the wall. All that's turning is shoulder down towards elbow and forearm. And then I go back to in and out, and I can actually move it down a little bit, make it a little bit bigger stretch, right? So let's do 5 more of the bend and straighten. Good, and then 5 more of the rotational ones, shoulder forward, shoulder back. And again, my hand and palm are staying flat and fully in contact with the wall. Good, and relax it down. Whew. All right. So now, for those of you that are on the recording, see if any of you stuck with me. I always find like it's nice to see if there's some feedback or questions. That way people watching the recording later have any, they might already have the answer at the end of the recording. So did anybody on here have any questions, comments, concerns, things they want to chime in about with how everything went? Again, I was doing smaller stuff all together as a group, so I didn't watch any of you specifically to see some differences, but what are some thoughts and comments?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that it's hard to mess up that last thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to hurt yourself doing these?
So with a lot of them, it's going to be based on if you sit there and strain something past the point that you know is painful, yes, it's always possible to hurt yourself, right? So it's like if I told you to go do a squat, and as you squat, you feel like your back is giving out, but yet you kept doing it, you're probably going to hurt yourself, right? That's a feeling that you might have. But if all you're doing is holding it and rotating or bending, and you feel a stretch, feel a bit of a pull, you're probably not going to over aggravate it. Now, if you sat there and it didn't start to loosen up as you did it, or you went too far down the wall and kept just trying to hope that it would loosen up, or felt like it was straining or pulling and it was just too much, and you did it for 2 minutes straight, you might strain something, you might aggravate a nerve, right?
Or like if I dig my thumb in, like you said not to do, could I hurt? I could hurt my nerve.
Again, I don't know that it'll necessarily hurt anything, like hurt, but it will make things sore.
Okay.
Right? Like it's not going to necessarily do damage, but that doesn't mean that something might not be sore from it because you're overusing or digging in. It might even hurt like your thumb joint if you're sitting there trying to grip or poke or grab. But if it's just a general soreness, that's different than actually hurting it, right? It's the same thing as like when we first use muscles in a certain lift that we haven't done. We get really sore from it, and it feels pretty painful and sore the next couple of days. But we know that was with an express purpose of using those muscles and conditioning them versus actually a strain that lasts 6+ weeks and is in straight up pain regardless of whether we use it again or not, right? That's the difference there. So you're at low risk of really injuring yourself because these ones can get uncomfortable enough that you'll probably give up on doing them for very long, more than a minute or two, to where you wouldn't end up long-term injuring yourself. Great question. Any other questions about it or things you guys noticed? Did people feel a lot of tension in those areas? Did anyone notice like super sore doing one thing or the other? Let's
let's see.
Danielle's working on her feet. All right, good. Cool. Okay, so it looks like no one had any big glaring issues with that. I think that's a great question, Catherine, just to make sure people understand that you have to kind of listen to your own with own reason of like how stuff feels. But just because something's sore or feels different than usual, since we don't do those stretches very often, or you don't use your thumbs in that way, doesn't mean you'll necessarily injure them. It might just be like they're more sore than usual and you realize like, I guess I don't use those very much. So you should be okay. And I picked a nerve floss type of fascial glider that's pretty hard to mess up. Ones that involve moving a ton and like bending your neck and everything else, those ones you might tweak something, right? But we didn't throw those ones in today since those ones are a little bit more something I like to coach someone one-on-one with. So that was a great question, Catherine. If you guys have further questions about things for arms, shoulders, elbow tendonitis type stuff, anything that you notice you've been experiencing, maybe wrist or thumb pain, try some of these things to see if mobilization of them help them go away or dissipate a little bit. And if they don't, hit me up, hit Ross up, any of us up. We are in office a couple days of the week. If you guys do have questions about something and are concerned that it's more of an injury that needs tending to. Cool? All right, guys, I'm going to end the recording now. I hope that everyone has a wonderful sunny day. I appreciate you guys getting on later in the call. And I will see you guys, if not before, on a vid time. I'll see you next week.
All right.
Thank you, Austin.
Later.
Bye, guys.